Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hey, I got another hiking stick topper video for you. And in this one, we're going to just be talking about hiking stick topper tips. We're going to talk a little bit about how you make them and how you attach them. I have a playlist on hiking sticks and hiking stick topper projects, so check that out in the description link if you want to go see those. So why have a hiking stick topper? You know, you don't have to have one, of course. A lot of people don't, but you know, for me, I think it's more about decoration than it is about, you know, adding any functionality to the hiking stick. Although you can, you know, add like a compass or something like that to your hiking stick topper, I guess would give it a little bit more functionality. But for me, it's more of an outlet for my basswood carving. I enjoy carving these little 1.5 by 1.5 by 6 inch pieces of basswood, and they're relatively easy to carve and also to paint and to finish, and I think they look really good. They make a great conversation piece on your hiking stick as you're walking down the trail. Now here are some examples of some other hiking stick toppers that I've made, and I've got videos on all of these. Here's one where I made a simple antler hiking stick topper, and I'll talk a little bit more about how I joined that to the staff. And then on this one I also added a compass. I've also got the cactus hiking stick topper video on this, where I'm using a power carving tool to basically carve, and it's really, when you're dealing with hardwoods, it's a little bit easier if you got a power carving tool. And this is made out of zebra wood, which is a beautiful piece of wood, but it's also very hard to carve with a knife. I'll talk a little bit about how I attached that one to the hiking staff. The other thing, if you've got a wood lathe, another cool way to make a hiking stick topper is to use a wood lathe. Just another form of power carving essentially, but you get a very symmetrical, beautiful piece or turning that you can put on top of your hiking stick topper. And in this one I also added a compass, and I added some burn lines to give it a little bit more decoration. And then of course my favorite way is the basswood carvings, and this is one of my basswood carvings. This is the Happy Hiker Howl, and I did a video several months ago on how to make this and his companion friend Hillbilly Hank. And you can go check that out, and these are really fun to make. They make great conversation pieces as you're walking down the trail. As I mentioned, I've got videos on all of these. If you want to check them out, look at the playlist, and I put a link to the playlist in the description field. Now, one of the biggest questions that I get is, how do you attach these to your hiking stick topper? And there's several ways you can do it, but the main thing you're trying to accomplish is you want a hiking stick topper that sort of aligns straight with the hiking stick, and you don't really want this unsightly gap down here where it attaches to the hiking stick. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to eliminate that. So there are many ways that you can do this. I'm going to share with you my 3 favorite ways of attaching a hiking stick topper to a staff, and one is a wooden dowel method, another is a hanger bolt method, and the third way, which is really my favorite, is the dowel screw. And I'm going to be showing you up close on camera how these different attachments work. So of course the biggest challenge we talked about is drilling a straight hole, center hole in the top of your hiking stick staff. Now you've got to get the hole in the basswood or in the piece. It's very easy with a square piece of basswood, because I can simply use my centering vise on my drill press to get a center hole in this piece of basswood. A little bit more challenging to get a center hole in the dowel itself, and for that I made this little jig that I'm going to share with you. Basically this is made out of ash, and as you can see, I like to deal with dowel hiking sticks, you know, that you can buy in your home improvement store. But this little jig or drilling block or whatever you want to call it is really easy to make. I simply turned this hole with the Forstner bit, and then I drilled another pilot hole through the center of that. So now when you slip this over the top of your dowel hiking stick, you can do 2 things. You get a drilling block essentially, and that hole is going to go center of the dowel, and you're also going to drill through that and get a straight hole into your dowel. Okay, so let me demonstrate this drilling block jig for you real quick. You simply slide this over the top of your hiking stick topper. Proceed to drill the hole. And there you go. You've got a perfectly centered hole, a straight hole, and now this will become the pilot hole for either your hanger bolt, your dowel screw, or possibly your wooden dowel. Okay, let's first talk about the 3 joinery methods, and we're going to start out by talking about how to join a hiking stick topper using a wooden dowel. So basically, this is a 3/8 inch, and I would not go any smaller than this, but a 3/8 inch diameter wooden dowel. Preferably, I would get a hardwood dowel if you can find one. But if not, just use what you have on hand, but go with the 3/8 inch dowel. This one's about 4 inches long. I would do 4 to 5 inches long. That way you have about 2 inches to 2.5 inches going into the top of the hiking staff. And, you know, another, on this side, you've got, 2 inches, 2.5 inches going into the cane topper. Now again, I've said all of my cane toppers, this part is not the handle, okay? The handle, the grip for the hiking staff is down here, so you're not really putting pressure. This is more for decoration. So really, you don't need a super strong joint here, but you do want one that will stand up with time. Now you can use Type Bond 3 wood glues, waterproof wood glue with this. And you'll notice that on the dowel itself, I used my carving bee tool to put some little flutes or grooves in here. That's going to allow the glue to, escape as you glue this together. And so you notice also that I put painter's tape around the top here, the bottom of the topper, the top of the staff. So when that glue squeezes out, it's not going to get into your wood and soak into your wood. So you'll notice also that the diameters don't quite match here, but you want to try to match them up as best as you can. And then if they don't, after this is glued up over the recommended time on the bottle or overnight, then you come back with your carving knife and just carve this down to make the cane topper match the top of your hiking stick. And we'll talk about some ways that you can possibly cover this joint up as well. But this particular method is going to mean that the hiking stick topper is joined permanently to the top of your hiking staff. The other 2 methods, you don't necessarily have to join it permanently. Okay guys, let's talk about the hanger bolt method. So this is what's called a hanger bolt. You'll notice that on one side you have machine threads here for a bolt, and this other side is simply a wood screw. It has threads that will just bite into the wood like a regular wood screw. Now, where I found this to come in very handy was for the antler hiking stick topper. So I drilled my hole, and this is a challenge, of course, with deer antler. You can see here I made a little spirit in this antler, but you notice this antler is pretty curved. I was fortunate to get a pretty straight piece of antler so that I could drill, fairly decent straight hole in here. But what I did is I drilled a hole into the antler about the same size as this end right here. Now, even though this has threads, don't worry about threading or screwing this into the antler. Just slide it in there. And I used this JB Weld 2-part epoxy and just let it set up for several hours or overnight. And then once it's set up, then I of course drill my pilot hole into the top of the staff with my little jig, and then just screw this whole thing in. Now this one's a little different in that I did glue a coupling on here, so this topper is permanently attached. But you could theoretically, glue this in here and then just screw your topper on top, and then you can still interchangeably take this topper off and, you know, put a different one on there or a new one on there. Now again, I would say use the painter's tape right around the wood part here, so that when your epoxy does squeeze out, that epoxy doesn't soak into your wood. It can sometimes be very hard to sand that out, and sometimes it'll distort whatever kind of stain or finish that you put on there. So having the painter's tape around here works really well for glue squeeze out. Okay guys, let's talk about the third method, which is probably my favorite, and that is the dowel screw. And you see that it's different than the hanger bolt. Hanger bolt has the thread rods on one end for a nut. This one has thread on both ends, but it's more for wood. So it's a wood screw on both ends. It's called a dowel screw. And basically what I like to do is, once I've got my pilot holes done, I just like to put this in my drill. It's not going to hurt the threads any. I'll tighten that down. And then here's my carving. Of course, I've already, before I carved this, it was a square block, and I put this in my centering vise and got a square hole in there and drilled a pilot hole. So I simply take this and I just use the drill to screw this on here. Take that out. And now I have my pilot hole that I put in here with the jig into the top of the dowel. I can just screw this in. And there you go. It gives a really tight fit. And I don't, you know, you could put epoxy on there if you wanted it to be more permanent, but I don't put any epoxy on the dowel screws, mainly because if I want to change this topper out if the stick broke, or I wanted to change it out to a new carving that I made, that way I can easily twist this off and put a new one on. So there you go. Again, I would recommend, if you do use glue, put the painter's tape right here for any glue squeeze out. But for this method, I don't really use the glue. It's a really tight fit. Let's talk briefly about carving material and tools. So my go-to carving material is basswood. It's very easy to carve. It carves detail very well. You can paint and finish it very well. Usually for toppers, I'll use a 5 to 6 inch block, and these blocks are either 1 by 1 square, or 1.5 square, or 1 1/4 square. And you can see I always start out, while the block is still square, I'm going to go ahead and drill my pilot hole for the hiking stick topper. Now you really only need a few tools to get started in this, and my go-to tools for many years have been the flex cut tools. This is the flex cut roughing knife. It's got a little bit longer blade, good for roughing out your carving. And then this is the flex cut detail knife. It's a little bit shorter blade and helps you with a little bit more carving detail. Now I also like the flat ground knives, like the OCC tool, and this is the deep holler knife. Those are very fun to carve with, and I would suggest having at least maybe one of those on hand. Also, V tool comes in handy for cutting in grooves and cleaning up some of your cut lines. And then also a small gouge is also good for cutting in flowing curves into your carving. Don't forget to wear a carving glove or carving tape on your fingers, especially if you're just starting out. Want to be safe and not have any major cuts or issues. One thing I would recommend is keep your knives very sharp. I use this leather strop probably 98% of the time to keep all of these tools in tip-top shape. And if they do get very dull or get a nick in them, then I might take them back to a whetstone or sandpaper and redress them, but I always bring them back to the strop to get them razor sharp. Now, as for patterns, I am working to create a PDF of my own patterns, but you can search online for free hiking stick topper patterns or create your own designs. Okay, here are a few of my, I guess, favorite hiking stick toppers that I've carved over the past few years. This was one I named Hillbilly Hank, and this is Hillbilly Flagman, I guess you can call him. But, you know, hillbillies and wood spirits seem to be a popular theme with hiking sticks and hiking stick toppers. And you'll see a lot of people also just carving a wood spirit directly into their hiking stick staff. So that's a very popular topper. And then you got the what I call the Happy Hiker Hal guy here. I really enjoyed making him. Of course, he's got the hiking theme going on, so he looks pretty cool on top of a hiking stick staff. And then you got the mountain men. These, of course, go with the outdoor theme, and I think they look pretty cool too, you know, on a hiking stick staff. Got a video on how to make this one. And then I've got the barred owl. I don't have a video on this one yet, but I enjoyed making this, enjoyed painting it, and it looks good on top of a hiking staff. I think in the future that's what I'm going to probably trend toward now, is maybe more bird carvings as far as hiking stick toppers go, and maybe snakes. So look for that maybe in future videos. Okay, with harder woods and projects like this deer antler spirit, I like to use power carving tools. You don't have to necessarily use power carving, but I think for certain things they work a little bit easier. I, for years, used the Dremel. It's a very reliable tool, still a very popular rotary tool for carving. But in recent years, I've swapped over to the Strong 202. That's become my go-to power carver. Now, the 202, I believe, has been discontinued. They now have the 240, but it's essentially the same power carving tool. What I really like about this is the changing out the bits is very easy. All you got to do is rotate this collet here, remove the bit, put a new bit in, turn it, and it's locked in. Very easy to change bits out. It fits very well in your hand. You don't have any kind of shaft out here, just the power cord. Very ergonomic. You don't get that so much with a Dremel unless maybe you attach a flex shaft to the Dremel, but even with the flex shaft you do have some limitations and challenges there. This thing goes up to 45,000 RPMs, and that's what I use to carve the deer antler. It works very well on deer antler carvings. Now, I mentioned before, people like to carve designs directly into the staff on their hiking stick, and these power carving tools come in pretty handy. You know, I mentioned the wood spirit being kind of a popular design, but there are other designs that are pretty easy to do with these power tools. If you want to see a wonderful example of someone carving hiking staffs, I'd recommend you check out Stennett Sticks YouTube channel. This guy's just a great artist and a craftsman, and he does a lot of hiking stick projects that involve animals. And probably my favorite one is the one with the rattlesnake, so I'll encourage you to check him out. So another tool that you might want to add that can also enhance your carvings or your hiking stick toppers is simply a wood burner. And I like this one from Razor Tip SK. It's got a wide range of temperature settings on it, and you can see that the wood burner itself has very fine points and edges. And this is good because you can really enhance your carvings if you're trying to add maybe some features like fur or hair or maybe buttons or eyes. and that kind of thing. You can just simply burn them into the carving. Okay, for the basswood hiking stick toppers, I generally like to paint those. As you saw in some of my examples, I like to use these acrylic paints. You can get these at a local craft store, Walmart, and they come in a variety of different colors and they dry very fast. I'll usually use the full strength of the paint, or I might water down the paint and kind of make it act like a stain. Now when that acrylic dries, what I'll normally do for a hiking stick topper is I'll use this fast drying polyurethane. Now this is a warm satin. Normally I would probably use a matte because I don't like to have a glossy look on my carvings. But the polyurethane, you'll just apply it with a brush, maybe 2 or 3 thin coats, let it dry between coats, and this will produce probably one of the most durable finishes you can get. Now you can also, the other alternative is to use an acrylic finish, kind of like this polyclearic. I don't think it's quite as durable, but it's still another choice to seal and finish your carving. Now for the hiking stick staff itself, the bottom portion, I like to usually stain those. My favorite one is the gun stock stain, as you can see here. And when that dries, I'll usually apply, if the weather's good, I'll spray on a couple of coats of the spar urethane. Another option is, if I don't do that, I might use linseed oil, Danish oil, and I don't have my bottle of tung oil, but I might use tung oil as well. Those three, can be used directly to the hiking staff, and they give it a really good finish as well. So you do have a lot of choices as far as how you want to finish your hiking stick staff. I would just say experiment with it and see what you like and what works best for you. Okay guys, let's talk a little bit about covering up this joint right here. Now the first thing you want to do is try your best to get this joint in alignment, and also the point where there is no gap between the topper and the hiking stick staff. This one turned out pretty good actually, because this is a piece of crepe myrtle that I carved, and there is a little bit of a gap, as you can see there, and what I could do is I could take my carving knife and adjust it if there's a bigger gap. You'll notice the diameters don't match, and again, as we said, once you've glued this up, you could take the carving knife and carve this down, the hiking stick down, to match the diameter of the hiking stick, or you can maybe just take a sander and sand this area to where it's flush. Now I don't know how that's going to look, and that's why you might want to consider covering this joint up to cover up any unsightly parts there that you don't want to see. So one of the things I did with this hiking stick here for this topper is, again, I joined it with the dowel screw, and I guess it may have left a little bit of a gap there, and I wanted to just experiment with using paracord. So this is paracord and a very simple wrap that you can use to cover up that joint. Now here's another example of one where I used leather cordage, and you can use leather cordage to do that. So another way you can cover up a joint like I did here with the deer antler topper is I use this little ferrule here or coupling that you can glue in here. I think you can get these from Treeline USA. Don't remember how much they cost, but they're pretty decorative. You can get them in chrome. I think you can maybe give them even a brass color, and it's just an easy way but you got to get the right diameter. There might be 1 or 2 different sizes of these, so you need to get it to match your hiking staff and hiking stick topper, or carve it down to match the diameter of the ferrule. Another maybe cheaper way, or although I don't know how cheap it is to just go down to the hardware store and buy these copper fittings. I think this is a 1-inch copper fitting, but you could easily use that to cover up a joint, and that works pretty well. I have seen some hiking stick makers use these copper joints, and you may be able to find some different than this. Here's one that's a little bit smaller, need one a little bit bigger, but you can find these in your hardware store, and they make good couplings for the hiking stick topper and the staff, and they'll cover up that joint in the middle. Okay, let's talk briefly about hiking stick staffs, and I guess my preference is just plain old dowel sticks that you can get from like Home Depot or Lowe's. These come anywhere from like 48 inches to 60 inches and up to 72 inches. Usually they come in pine, poplar, or oak. I generally go with the poplar because it's pretty strong and pretty lightweight, and that's important for, you know, a hiking stick. They usually come in diameter wise, they're usually 1 inch wide, maybe 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 inch wide, so you have a little bit of variety as far as diameters go. I like them because they work well with the basswood toppers that I carve, and pretty easy to align them and get them on here and make this joint, you know, pretty clean here on the end. Now another option you could use if you want to is repurposing just a handle on a rake or a shovel. This is what I did here on one of my dad's old rakes, is I just turned it into a hiking stick, and it's a very durable piece of wood. It's pretty lightweight. So again, you can reclaim wood, use different kind of wood like that for hiking sticks. Now if you want the more rugged look, you know, like this is a crepe myrtle clip-in for my yard, which I'm going to eventually turn this and maybe carve something on it and turn it into a hiking stick. I've also got this eastern red cedar here. It's been sitting in my garage for a while. But the thing about these is it does take quite a bit of time to process this, because you've got to, you know, either trim a good bit of it down with the power carving tools and get it to where it's manageable to fit in your hand. But you know, they do look good. They've got really cool you know, natural features with the curves and the twist, and you know, but they do take a little bit time to process if you're going to take the bark off or do something else to it. Now I'd like to give a shout out to Dennis Nolan over on his channel called Ozarks Arts and Crafts, and he does quite a bit of hiking sticks like this that are green wood that he's harvested from his yard or the woods, and you'll see him processing that wood and giving it different designs and carvings and a lot of different things. So I would encourage you to go check out his channel. Another good channel is Jason Hedrich. He's got several great videos on hiking stick carvings and designs, and I would encourage you to check out both of those channels. But in the end, you know, choose the wood that you like to use the most. Like I said, I enjoy the dowel wood because to me it's a little bit easier. Don't spend a lot of time on the hiking staff itself. I focus more on the topper, carving the topper and fitting the topper on here. And it's very durable wood and very lightweight, which again is very important for hiking sticks. Okay, I wanted to mention a few other features that go along with hiking sticks that you might be interested in. One is the grip, and I've got a really good video on making this spiral grip out of paracord. You can go check that out in the description field. But basically what you want to do is you want to walk around with your hiking stick and kind of figure out, okay, where's the comfortable spot that you're putting your hand in, and then mark the center of that, and then that way you've got a place located for this 6 or maybe 7 inch space here where you want to put your grip. So that's one thing. You don't have to have a grip. Another thing, like with this one right here, I don't have a paracord grip, but I did add a leather strap, and I made my own concho here. Now you can buy metal conchos and this leather strap from Treeline USA if you want to add these to your hiking stick, or you can just use the paracord. It's pretty easy to do as well, but I thought I made this one with antler. Thought it looked pretty cool. The other thing are these metal medallions that I like to collect these when I go visit a national park, and this was a trip my wife and I did a couple of summers ago. But I like to collect these, and then sometimes I'll put these on my hiking stick. Now, as for the metal foot that you put on the hiking stick, of course you don't have to add this. This is one version. This is probably a little bit more expensive, but this will help your hiking stick endure for a little bit longer period of time. But this one, goes on, and then this screws off. I have never used this feature, but it's got this little spike on the end here. I guess this is used maybe for snow, or if you're hiking in ice, or some ground is really, really hard. I've never used it, but that is one option that you can put on there. But to be honest with you, I think most people just prefer this little simple plastic cover that you can get down at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think these are meant to be put on little maybe stool legs or whatever, but they really fit really nice on a lot of these hiking sticks, and they're just a few bucks. So I would generally prefer these, but you can also get these fancier ones. You can buy these from like Treeline USA. Takes a little bit more effort to attach these and put them on, but they are pretty cool. Well guys, that's a wrap for this video. Appreciate you joining along with me. Hey, I know I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the carving portion of this, but I do have a playlist in the description field you might be interested in. If you are interested in getting into carving, I do have some basic videos in a playlist. I'll also have my playlist for the hiking stick topper projects that I do, so check that out. Thanks again for tagging along, and we will see you in the next video.